Hello, welcome to SimUK. This is my Tank Mechanic Simulator review. I have been given the full release early in order to preview it and review it, so if you want to watch some gameplay, I've got a full gameplay series over on SimUK Let's Play. You can go and watch it over there. Tank Mechanic Simulator delivers a nice, authentic World War II tank mechanic and museum simulation experience. It certainly is not a hardcore simulator. It's very similar, in fact, to Car Mechanic Simulator and all of its many spin-offs. For example, removing the engine from the tank still doesn't require you to remove anything that might be in the way or blocking that from being able to be taken out. Once removed, the engine components, I've got to say, are fairly limited. There seem to be no internal guts. It certainly isn't as advanced in the engine department as, for example, Car Mechanic was. So TMS comprises taking progressively larger jobs from clients via emails on your PC or your tablet once you've unlocked that ability, and 90% of your workload will be removing rust, sanding it down, priming it and painting it, although most jobs don't actually require painting until later in the day. Sometimes you will have to remove, fix or replace broken parts in order to meet the assembly requirements. All jobs have two requirement settings, repairs and assembly, and that's indicated via a percentage. Repairs include rust removal, sanding it down, priming and painting, and assembly is effectively the number of parts that are currently connected together as the tank. So it might be necessary for you to buy, or later on when you've unlocked blueprints, craft missing parts. Climbing in and out of the tank turret is pretty darn cool. I wish it was a little bit more realistic, but you can sort of physically go in there and do it yourself, or you can just select to switch into one of the seats, like a driver's seat or a radio operator's seat. One of the things it does for me is really highlight just how cramped it must have been inside some of those tanks, especially the Sherman. I think I'd panic if I was in a Sherman. It just looks so tight in there, it's pretty frightening. You've got a whole bunch of areas that you can unlock. You've got the paint shop, the repair shop, the museum, the backyard, the obstacle course for taking tanks out and testing them, and of course the firing range, which is really pretty cool. You can also discover tanks that are buried in the ground, and it's these tanks that you find buried in the ground that you can effectively put into your museum. In order to find them, you'll go to the map area, which is not that big to be honest, and you locate tanks in the ground using a metal detector or magnetometer, don't know how to say it, or a drone, and the drone is by far the quickest and easiest method. Then you simply dig it up, clean it off, and bring it home. The whole business and, well, TMS as a whole is quite a linear experience. You do have some freedom in order to change your surroundings. You can put posters up, you can change the colour of the floors, the pillars and the upper walls and the lower walls independently. You can also upload your own posters, so if you want to create your own bespoke poster, you can do that, which is quite a cool feature. It does give you quite a bit of freedom in that sense, and especially when you're considering the museum, how you want to set everything out and the information that you want to provide there. That's a decent bit of additional content added for free. So basically what you do is you accept jobs, you complete the jobs, you earn points off the back of those jobs. Those points will buy you upgrades, which will mean that you can do things faster, you can expand, and you can unlock those areas that I mentioned to you earlier. I still haven't found anything other than tanks in the ground, and in the museum there are these cases for much smaller items, so I'm still really intrigued to find out what would go in the smaller cabinets. I'm thinking helmets, maybe weapons, maybe shells, things like that, but so far I haven't found any, so I haven't completed the game by any sense of the imagination. The tank paint shop allows for repaints and camouflage and decals to be added, and I've got to say that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, I highlighted a bug in the demo, and that bug is still there. So on certain areas, when you try and put a decal on certain parts of the tank, it will appear on the turret as well. So you'll get the same decal in two different places. That's quite a frustrating bug. They need to split that so that the turret and the tank have independent skin files which at the moment they clearly do not. I hope they're going to address that at some point, but clearly they didn't watch my previous video, so who knows if they're going to fix that. I don't know. There's also what I can only describe as a strange night and day cycle system which is in place. It's not done how you would normally expect things to be done, but certainly when you're going out hunting for tanks, sometimes it will be really dark, and that is also reflected in the workshop. Sometimes it gets darker in the workshop. It's okay. It's odd. It's not as you would expect it to be, but it's okay. It's fine. Also, when you're tank hunting, the Jeep and the Quad handle really poorly. The tanks themselves actually handle far, far better, but the Jeep and the Quad are awful to drive. And if you're using the equipment that you take off the back of the Jeep or whatever, sometimes when you put it back into the Jeep, it will completely disappear. Another bug that I highlighted in the demo that hasn't been dealt with. There's no way of getting that back that I figured out. All you have to do is go back to the workshop and then back to the map where you've been searching for tanks. Now, I've also noticed that occasionally I went back to the map 3 times in one episode at one point, and on the 3rd time of going there, the area to search changed. So I'm not sure if that's a bug, but the first 2 times I went and searched where it suggested there was a tank, I found absolutely nothing. So was it a bug? And was I meant to be searching in the other location? I don't know, but just bear that in mind. There's possibly some issues around that as well. The new features that you will find in the main game include the obstacle course and the firing range. I wasn't able to sort of discuss those in the demo because they weren't included. I've tried both and they're both pretty cool. I do think the obstacle course should be bigger, or perhaps there should be more obstacle courses available. Different places. It would be great if they could open up modding in that area so that we can create our own tracks. There is some modding available for the posters and stuff like that. I think that's coming. So yeah, I mean, overall TMS is pretty much exactly what you're expecting it to be. Personally, I think they've done a great job with the modelling, and it really does work pretty well. There are a few bugs. Some of them are minor, most of them are minor, but there are some that crash the game completely. I'm sure these will get ironed out. I have told the devs via Discord about them, so it's not like they don't know they're there. A few things that I think could make the game even more enjoyable or more realistic. Well, some of them are to make the game more enjoyable, some of them to make them more realistic. In fact, most of them to make it more realistic. But when you're fitting a part, if you have a new part and an old part attached to the engine, for example, if you take the old part off and then fit a new part, 99 times out of 100, it will fit the new part. But if you take the old part off and then go and buy a new part and then come back and try and put the new part on, it will put the old part on instead. It's a logic bug. It could easily be fixed, or they could just give us the option to pick which one we want to put on there, because the current system doesn't work very well at all, and I think it needs to be addressed. It's a logic bug, not a bug, but it's quite an irritating bug. The rust removal, the sanding and the spraying, which is 90% of your work, I think could be far more realistic than it currently is. At the moment you just point anywhere and it just kind of fills the whole thing in. Now, if you haven't seen Diesel Brothers, it's an average game. It's worth picking up if it's on sale. I picked it up for like £5 or something. It has a fantastic mechanic for painting and sanding. I think that they could do a much better job with the rust removal, sanding and spraying. It would look so much better and feel so much better if they implemented something similar to, if not the same, as they've done over on Diesel Brothers. I really think that would add a lot to the game, because at the moment it just feels quite disconnected. When you're doing that job, you switch off, you just press and hold the button, and then you move on to the next space and you press and hold the button. There's not really any interaction there, and that's a little bit disappointing, I've got to say. But it's only disappointing to me because I've played Diesel Brothers and I know how good that feels, and I wish that they'd implement something like that here. Now, when you're on the computer looking at your emails and stuff, ordering new parts, it really should allow you to open up multiple windows at the same time so that you can compare them. I want to be able to have the shop up, and I also want to be able to have the list of parts that are missing from my tank or need repairing up on the screen at the same time, so that I can create a shopping list. And this brings me to my next point, because when you're shopping in the shop, you cannot create a shopping list. You should be able to accumulate all of the parts you want and a total before you have to check out. But unfortunately, if I search for, let's say, a road wheel, and I add 3 road wheels, and then I search for an antenna and add an antenna, the only thing that's actually being added is the antenna, because every time you search for something new, it deletes everything that you've just already accepted. And that is very annoying. So you have to basically search for something, buy it, and then go and search for something else. And that might not seem annoying, but that isn't how we do it in the real world, so it will be annoying. I'd also like to see a checklist of jobs to do, either permanent or an on-screen quick glance system, where you press and hold a button and it pops up and there's like ticks and crosses for, have I done that bit yet? No, I haven't done that, I'll do that next. That would be great if you could add it yourself, just, even type it in yourself, I don't know. It would be better if you could just sort of, I don't know, click it, copy. Maybe, I'll tell you what would be good. When you've got a list of parts that need to be fixed for the computer, if you pressed a print button and a little printer printed out the thing, then you could pick that up and then you've got it as a quick reference. That would be fantastic. Because it's just, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed on these tanks. It's not like in a car mechanic simulator where one thing is wrong and you need to fix it. These tanks have been underground for 40 years. They are completely destroyed on the inside and the outside, and there's a lot of work you have to do. I also think the scrap sources should be expanded in order for you to find actual parts. Out in the backyard, some tanks do just sporadically appear out of nowhere, and you can pick them up really cheap. And by doing that, you can grab quite a few bits, actually. I built an M26 by doing that, so it works. I just think the ability to go and search places outside of your building would be nice, but it's not essential. Also, you can unlock the repair area. Now, unfortunately, what you need to do, if you want to build parts from scrap pieces, basically form your own components, you need to have the blueprints for the tank that you want to build stuff for. And that's fine, I understand that, that's really quite cool. But you should be able to take parts off of the tank and repair them. And so far, I've been unable to do that, to the point where I don't think it's part of the game. So you can't repair bits, you can't take something off the tank and repair it until you have the blueprints. And that, I think, is a bit of a pain. It would be great if you could repair, maybe you can repair it 10% better, 20% better, 30% better at the most. So if you've got a piece of, say, a road wheel that is, of 70% quality, and you've unlocked the 30% repair feature or ability, then you can take that 70% piece back up to 100% without having to buy a new road wheel or having to buy the blueprints and build your own. That would be nice. It doesn't exist at the moment, at least I don't think it does. The engines, I think, personally, should be fully modelled. It was quite a disappointment. It was quite exciting to see the tanks driving around after I'd built them and repaired them and started the engines. To actually be able to drive them around is really quite cool, and the mechanics for driving is interesting. W is accelerate, and once you've got the RPMs up to a high enough level, let go of W and press it again and it'll go up a gear, and that's how that works. And it's pretty good, it works pretty darn well. But when you look at the engine, it has 0 moving parts. The fans aren't moving, nothing is moving. And there are tank fumes that come out of the back of the tank, but they're kind of generic. I think they should really emanate from the exhaust. That would really add to the realism as well. At the moment, it all just pours out the back of the tank, and every tank is the same. Equally, the tank's engines, I feel, are too quiet, especially when you're driving them. They're so quiet when you're driving them, it's like driving a car. And I also think each tank should have different audio sounds. They should be more authentic, and at the moment I don't think they are. I'd also like to see a water feature added to the obstacle course, like a big muddy puddle for the tank to drop down in and drive out the other side. Again, it's not essential, the obstacle course is just fine as it is, but it would be nice to see some of these things. Firing the tank is pretty cool, having a firing range is an awesome experience, but I really think when you fire the gun, the whole tank should rock back and forwards. It should definitely feel like you're firing a tank gun. At the moment, it kind of makes a boomy sound again. I don't think it's quite loud enough. And it's okay, it's just, it could be so much better. It could be so much more realistic. But as it is, it's just fine. It's not It's not bad as it is, I wish it was more immersive in experience. So I unlocked all of the main features or main locations in about 10 hours. The tool belt, by the way, is super handy. That makes life a lot easier. But the whole museum part, building it, designing it, etc., choosing the tanks, repairing the tanks and putting them in there. You also set the prices for the tickets and you can track A, how much money you're making in the museum, and B, it gives you a bit of XP points, which can also go to unlocking other stuff as well. It's quite cool. I think having the museum adds a huge amount to the game. It gives you a bit of purpose, a bit of reason for being there. Something which Car Mechanic kind of lacked, if I'm being honest. Maybe they could implement that over on Car Mechanic. Maybe you could set up a little museum and put some classic cars in there. That would be quite cool. I'd like to see that. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's a great game. I do enjoy it. I do recommend it if you're into tanks, if you're into mechanics. This is definitely something I think you'll find interesting. But I would like to see more realism, more simulated elements. But that being said, these games are usually fairly priced fairly. So if this is priced sort of around about the £10 mark, £10-15, I think that's a fair price for the game. If they start asking more than that, then these issues that I've mentioned here will definitely play a bigger factor. But if you're looking at this game, like Train Mechanic Simulator was £10, and for £10, that's a hell of a lot of game. And if this is priced at £10, it's an absolute steal. It really would be a steal. It's got bugs, it's got issues, hopefully they'll get them fixed quickly, but it's a lot of fun. Like I say, over on SimUK Let's Play, I've got a full Let's Play series over there, so if you want to see more of the game before you buy, then please go over there and have a look. And don't forget to give me a thumbs up for this video and any other consequent video that you watch. Thank you for taking time to listen to me today. I hope I've been helpful. Till next time, take care, goodbye.